Okay. Hi there. It's me, Holly. Holly. I can't. It's weird to pronounce my name with an English accent or whatever. It was really sunny outside today, and although the weather forecast is calling it a false spring, I still believe in it, and so I used my opportunity and I used the sunshine to finish the picture of Dorian Gray in the garden. Mm, Also, I thought, what better time to paint a portrait than after reading that book, I guess. And maybe I'll try to paint it rather unrealistically so that the Basil Hallward type of energy can't slip into it. I had a lot of thoughts while reading this. First of all, priming the painting. I really enjoyed it. I think it's important to read classics from time to time to get a better understanding of what the world, people, society, different cultures, etc. used to be like. And it can tell you a lot about today as well and make you more empathetic in general. Reading in general can make you more empathetic. But let's be honest, is it even recording? Yeah, okay. But let's be honest, the old kind of language use or pages upon pages of just descriptive writing without any dialogue can be a drag sometimes. And so I was glad to find out that this classic is one that pulls you in and pulls you through the book, the story. Um, yeah, I was happy about that. Um, and there were beautifully written descriptions, like, I'm not quoting directly here, but roughly translating my German edition back to English. Um, Silently on silver feet, the shadows flitted in from the garden. How beautiful. It took me way too long to find this quote, by the way, because for some reason I always think that underlining the quotes with pencil is enough for me to find them later on. It's not. Um, the depiction of the upper class British society also reminded me a lot of Orlando by Virginia Woolf, which I read last year. So now, sketching out our portrait. One very interesting aspect of the story were the gay innuendos that were just very obvious to me, and but I'm assuming that back when it came out, most people didn't pick up on the subtext. Uh, that always baffles me. Um, I'm not saying that all of the men Dorian Gray hung out in his free time were in some kind of romantic relationship with him, but they clearly weren't all just very close friends. I like the thought that throughout all the decades, there were always queer people reading this book and feeling seen somehow, even though the queerness is not officially stated in the book, if you know what I mean. On the other hand, maybe that was common practice in English upper society in the 19th century to have one or a few homosexual love affairs, and everyone kind of knew what Wilde was talking about. Feel free to tell me if you have insider knowledge. Another aspect of the story was, of course, the obsession with youth and beauty. And with video essays and articles published about how we are reversing aging in Hollywood, and the substance in cinemas, and ad after ad on YouTube trying to sell you another face cream. The story, even though written so long ago is oddly timely. It always comforts me, but at the same time startles me when a piece of media from years, decades, or even centuries ago relates to my immediate reality. Like, oops, my emotions and experiences are not unique and never seen before, both in a relief but perhaps also a little bit sobering way. It's the same kind of feeling that I had while reading Parable of the Sower. Why am I always saying sour? Parable of the Sower by Olivia E. Butler. Um, this book also was written in 1993, and it's a dystopian. So it is set in the future, but the future is our present. Time-wise, it predicts some events that are happening in our world right now, like scarily accurate. Now, on to the characters. Obviously, Dorian Gray, our main character, he's a very interesting character. Even right from the beginning, his character seems very moldable. Um, he seems he seems to be very easily influenced by his surroundings and people around him. But I think, on the other hand, he's very young, and not having a lot of experience and wisdom yet in your life just makes you more prone to other people to mm, to be used and abused by other people, or being influenced by other people's opinions, both in a good way, but also in a negative way, and in this case, definitely a negative way. And the person that influences him is Lord Henry. He also has a surname, but I forgot. Lord Henry not Basilton. I forgot. Lord Henry. He's just Lord Henry to me. We are like this. Um, even though I wasn't too fond of Lord Henry as a character, he had some really interesting rants sometimes that I underlined. His thoughts were interesting, and probably really um, reflected quite well how do you say, the different topics that people were talking about back then, I guess, or discussing back then. The more the story progressed and Dorian Gray's soul cracked, the more I found myself in a similar position to Basil Hallward, I'd say the third main character in the book, even though he is not as present as the other two characters, but he's introduced very just right from the beginning on, right on from the beginning. And yeah, he's the third in the trio, and he mourned so much for the young innocent Dorian that was literally just like ripped away from him by Lord Henry in the beginning. And just like him, you kind of wish you could shout to him like, don't go down that path, don't listen to Lord Henry, come back to me and let me paint you. I wonder if there's also people who can relate most to Lord Henry. In the first chapter or so, when Lord Henry first meets Dorian Gray, it almost felt like a Twilight kind of situation. What team are you? Are you team Henry, Basil, or Dorian? After reading this, I read this. So I read this a couple of days ago. I actually lied to you in the beginning. I didn't read it today. I read it a couple of days ago, but I had to wait to film this video because the time wasn't right. The lighting also wasn't right. It's still a little meh. right now, but it's fine. Um, so I read this a couple of days ago, and I keep on thinking about the story, and there are more and more things that pop into my head. For example, I found it very interesting how the way the inner monologue of Dorian Gray is written. In the span of just a few sentences, he's going from feeling very guilty about what he did and his conscious sort of uh, getting a hold of him to completely gaslighting himself into blaming everyone else and every other circumstance for what happened, and more or less, yeah, comforting himself and also just, yeah, reassuring himself that he is fine and that everyone else is in the wrong and not him, obviously. That was very interestingly written, and yeah, I liked that. Also, how interesting is it that this book is literally about pretty privilege, and we are now, this is just like a a common phrase you find in every other video essay on YouTube. Um, but it existed back then, and that kind of relates to the thing I said earlier about how it's just so interesting to me that nothing is really unique. Like, things have been here on this earth, in our society, in people's minds for years, years, years. So everyone in the story kind of assuming that Dorian Gray is a great man, that he has a good character, that he is friendly, that he is lovely, that he couldn't do any harm to anyone, that he has a pure soul that is like free of any guilt and shame, just because he looks young and innocent and is pretty. And we see that today as well, that people are just much more likely to excuse bad behavior from people that are pretty and that are conventionally attractive. And I guess Dorian Gray was the hottest man alive in his time, for everyone. The guys, the girls, the gays. Twists his own perception of himself because he is so beautiful. He, if he, if it wasn't for the picture and the portrait that he is able to look at and see his bad behavior literally changing his appearance, he'd probably be even more delusional. Um, and maybe you can't blame him because everyone around him is telling him that he is such a good guy. But it's interesting that the more the years progress, the more people just feel iffy about him. Or do you say it like that? Is it iffy? It sounds so cute. Iffy is such a cute word. Iffy. Hmm. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if you would use this word in this context. But they feel uneasy about him and don't really want to be in his company anymore, and people are turning away from him. People are literally, their lives are wasted because of him. They turn to drug abuse, to alcohol abuse. They just go down very wrong paths because they crossed paths with Dorian Gray. And so I guess even your pretty face and your youth can't cover up your faults and your immoral and bad behavior in a way. It feels like there's still a little fence in my brain that keeps me from fully understanding the whole story. Although maybe that is not possible and shouldn't be the goal for everything. And I assume that there are quite a few different interpretations out there. In any case, I'll have to let it sit in my head for a while still and think about it passively, and maybe some good thoughts will come out of it, but they're not included in this video then. It was already very nice to engage with the book in this way by making this video. Yeah, it was like a journal entry in video form. I know a lot of people who cite The Picture of Dorian Gray as one of their favorite classics or favorite books in general. Feel free to write in the comments what are the reasons that The Picture of Dorian Gray deserves and earned its place on your bookshelf. What are some little details that you find very interesting about the book? May it be in a positive way or a negative way maybe. And yeah, I'm going to finish this painting now, and hopefully it doesn't finish me. And I will see you very soon in my next video. Tschüssi!